My fiancée wrote in her bridesmaids chat, "I'll say yes for now, but everyone knows I'll leave him eventually." She didn't notice I was in the thread. I just replied, "Make eventually today." Then I forwarded it to her parents who were paying for the wedding. It's funny how the universe works. You can spend years building something, laying every brick with care, and then discover the whole foundation is rotten because of one single misplaced text message. For me, that discovery came on a Tuesday night, a month before my wedding, in a group chat called Bride Tribe. Let me set the scene. I run a business that designs and installs custom home theaters and smart home systems. I like clean lines, good wiring, and things that work the way they're supposed to. My fiancée, Jessica, was supposed to be the final perfect component in the system of my life. Her parents, David and Mary, were footing the bill for our massive six-figure wedding. They were wealthy, old money types who saw this wedding not as a marriage, but as a merger, a social event to cap off their daughter's perfect, privileged life. I liked David and Mary. They were good, decent people who had welcomed me into their family. They were proud of my business, proud of the fact that I'd built something on my own. They were also footing the entire bill for this wedding, a fact they reminded me of with a gentle but constant pressure. Their only daughter was getting married, and they wanted it to be the event of the year. Jessica loved every second of it. She loved the dress fittings, the cake tastings, the endless meetings with the wedding planner. She loved being the center of attention. I was happy to let her have the spotlight. I was marrying her, not the wedding. So, about the group chat. A few months ago, Jessica's maid of honor, a girl named Lauren who I couldn't stand, created a group chat for the bridesmaids. It was for planning the bachelorette party, the bridal shower, all of it. For some reason, when Lauren was adding the bridesmaids to the chat, she must have mistyped a number. Instead of adding one of the bridesmaids, she had accidentally added me. My number was just one digit off from one of the other girls. It was a 1 in a million mistake. For months, I was a silent ghost in their chat. I'd get the notifications, hundreds of them a day, but I had the chat muted. I never looked at it. It was their space, full of talk about dresses and drama I had no interest in. I figured I'd just leave the group after the wedding. But on that Tuesday night, a single notification popped up on my phone's locked screen. A preview of a message that made my blood run cold. It was from Jessica. "He just proposed the most ridiculously expensive honeymoon. I'll say yes for now, but everyone knows I'll leave him eventually." I stared at the screen, the words not quite making sense. It had to be a joke, right? Some weird, cynical bridal humor I wasn't supposed to see. I unlocked my phone and opened the chat for the first time. I scrolled up, my heart pounding a slow, heavy rhythm in my chest. And there it was. Not just one message, but months of them. A secret. Second life my fiancé was living right under my nose. "Are you sure you want to go through with this? You could still call it off. And give up this wedding? Are you insane? My parents would kill me. Besides, it's not forever, it's just for now." Another bridesmaid named Olivia, "But you don't love him. Love is a strong word. He's stable, he's reliable, he's comfortable. It's a good starter marriage. I'll give it a few years, let him pay off my student loans, and then I'll move on to someone more exciting." What about the house? You know he's planning on buying one after the wedding. Even better, a good divorce settlement will be the perfect down payment on a place of my own. I scrolled and scrolled through dozens, hundreds of messages. It was all there. A calculated, cold-blooded plan to use me, to use our marriage as a financial stepping stone. She was marrying me for the wedding, for the stability, and for the eventual divorce settlement. She was laughing about it with her friends, mocking my love for her, my commitment, my future plans. The woman I was about to promise my life to was a parasite, and her friends were her willing accomplices. I didn't feel anger. I felt a profound and chilling sense of detachment, as if I were a surgeon looking at a cancerous tumor on an X-ray. The diagnosis was clear. The only option was to cut it out, completely and cleanly. I scrolled back down to her most recent message, the one about the honeymoon. Her friends were already replying with laughing emojis and encouraging comments. My fingers moved across the keyboard, my mind clear and sharp. I typed a single, simple reply into the chat, the first and only message I would ever send to the bride tribe. "Make eventually today." Then I took a screenshot of the entire conversation, a long, scrolling record of her betrayal. I attached it to an email. I addressed it to two people, David and Mary, her parents. The people who were paying for this fraudulent wedding. The subject line was simple, a change of plans. I hit send. And then I started to pack. Update 1. The silence after I sent that message was the most profound I have ever experienced. It was the silence of a bomb having been dropped, the moment before the shockwave hits. For about 5 minutes, nothing happened. The group chat was quiet. My phone was quiet. Then the chaos began. The first reply in the group chat was from Lauren, the maid of honor. "Who is this? Is this a joke?" Then another bridesmaid. "OMG, is that his number? How is he in this chat?" Then a frantic series of messages from Jessica. "Mark, what are you talking about? How did you see that? You're not in this group. This is a huge misunderstanding. We were just joking around. Mark, call me right now." My phone started ringing. It was her. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again and again and again. While it was ringing, I got a new notification, an email reply from her father, David. It was one word: unacceptable. A minute later, my phone rang again. This time it was David. I answered. His voice was low and tight, like a wire stretched to its breaking point. "I'm looking at an email from you, Mark," he said. "Tell me this isn't real." "I'm afraid it is, David," I said, my voice calm. I was accidentally added to their group chat months ago. I never looked at it until tonight. What you're reading is just a small sample. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could hear a woman's voice in the background, muffled and distraught. It was Mary. "I'm on my way over," David said and hung up. While I waited for him, I continued my work. I went through our apartment, a place I had moved into a year ago, but which was leased in both our names, and I started to pack my things, not hers, mine, my clothes, my books, my work equipment. I was a surgeon, excising myself from a diseased body. Jessica was still calling, her calls now interspersed with frantic, pleading texts. "Please, baby, just talk to me. It's not what it looks like. I love you. You know I love you. My friends are terrible. They were just egging me on. I didn't mean any of it." The lies were so desperate, so transparent. It was almost pathetic. She wasn't sorry for what she had done. She was just terrified of the consequences. David arrived 20 minutes later. He looked like he had aged 10 years since I had last seen him. He walked into the apartment, looked at the half-packed boxes, and just shook his head. "I've already spoken to the wedding planner," he said, his voice heavy. "We're canceling everything. We'll lose the deposits, but I don't care. I will not pay for a fraud." We sat in silence for a few minutes. "I'm sorry, Mark," he finally said. "I had no idea. We raised her to be better than this." "I thought she was," I said. He told me he had called Jessica and told her to be at their house in an hour for a family meeting. He asked me if I would come. He said he understood if I didn't want to, but that he felt I deserved to be there, to face her with them. I agreed. The drive to their house was surreal. Jessica was still sending me a constant stream of texts, each one more desperate than the last. She was now blaming Lauren, claiming her friend had stolen her phone and sent the messages as a cruel prank. When I walked into their house, the scene was tense and quiet. Jessica was sitting on the couch, her face pale and tear-stained. Mary was on the other side of the room, her expression a mask of cold, controlled fury. Lauren, the maid of honor, was there too, apparently summoned to answer for her part in the deception. Jessica jumped up when she saw me. "Mark, thank God, tell them this is all a misunderstanding." I didn't even look at her. I looked at David. He was holding a printout of the email I had sent him, the screenshots of the chat laid out like evidence in a courtroom. "Jessica," David said, his voice booming through the silent house. "I have 2 questions for you. Did you write these messages? And do you love this man?" She looked at me, then at her father, her eyes darting around like a cornered animal. We were just joking," she stammered. "It was just girl talk." "That is not what I asked," David's voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Did you write these messages?" She finally broke. A sob escaped her lips. "Yes," she whispered. "And do you love him?" She just stood there, silent, the tears streaming down her face. The silence was her answer. Mary, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke, her voice shaking with rage. "Get out," she said, looking at Lauren. "Get out of my house. "And you," she said, turning to Jessica, "pack a bag. You are no longer welcome here. You have humiliated this family in a way I never thought possible." Update 2. The explosion I had set off was not a single contained blast. It was a cluster bomb, sending shrapnel flying in every direction, tearing through the carefully curated world of my ex-fiancée and her family. The scene at her parents' house was just the beginning. After Mary kicked her out, Jessica had a full-blown meltdown. She refused to leave, screaming that it was her home, that they couldn't do this to her. It was Lauren, the now ex-maid of honor, who finally managed to get her out of the house. The wedding, of course, was canceled. But David and Mary did something I never expected. The following day, they sent out an email to every single person on the guest list. It was a formal, brutally honest announcement. "It is with the deepest regret that we announce the cancellation of the wedding between our daughter, Jessica, and Mark. This decision has been made due to the discovery of a profound and unforgivable betrayal on our daughter's part. We apologize for any inconvenience this may cause. We also wish to extend our deepest, most sincere apologies to Mark, a man who has shown our family nothing but kindness and respect, and who deserved so much better than the deceit he was shown." They didn't just cancel the wedding, they publicly disowned their daughter's actions and exonerated me completely. They chose integrity over saving face. It was an act of character I never would have expected, and it cemented my respect for them, even as I was extricating myself from their family. The financial fallout was swift. David was true to his word. He and his lawyers went through every vendor contract with a fine-tooth comb. They managed to recoup some of the deposits, but the losses were still substantial. As for me, I was in the clear. I hadn't spent a dime on the wedding itself. The apartment, however, was another matter. The lease was in both our names. I had no intention of living there, a place now tainted with the memory of her lies. I also had no intention of making it easy for her. I moved the rest of my things out and into a new apartment across town the day after our breakup. Then I did something my lawyer advised against, but which felt deeply, primally necessary. I went to the apartment one last time. Jessica was there, packing her things, her face a mess of tears and rage. She started screaming at me the moment I walked in, blaming me for ruining her life. I didn't say a word. I just walked into the kitchen, took a can of black spray paint from a bag, and painted a single large X on every single wall of the apartment. On the living room wall, I wrote the words that had started it all. "It's just for now." Then I walked out, leaving her standing in the ruins of our shared life. I immediately called the landlord, explained that my ex-fiancée and I had broken up, and that I would not be contesting the loss of our security deposit due to the redecorating. I gave him her number and told him she was now his sole point of contact. Jessica, I learned later, had to pay not only to have the entire apartment repainted, but also had to cover the remaining months of the lease herself, as I had made it clear I would not be contributing another cent. Her life, in the months that followed, was a slow, painful unraveling. Kicked out by her parents, she was forced to move in with Lauren. That arrangement lasted less than a month. The two of them, stripped of the wedding that had been the center of their social lives, apparently turned on each other with a vengeance. She had to get a job, a real one, for the first time in her adult life. She was working as a hostess at a restaurant, a humbling, and for her, humiliating fall from grace. Her parents, while still paying for some of her bills, had effectively cut her out of their lives. They were ashamed of her, and they didn't bother to hide it. Final update. It's been a year. I'm sitting in the living room of the house I just bought, a beautiful place with a big yard and a workshop where I can finally build the furniture I've always dreamed of making. My business is thriving. My life is quiet, stable, and entirely my own. I've maintained a cordial relationship with David and Mary. We've had dinner a few times. They are still deeply ashamed of what their daughter did, and they have treated me with a kindness and respect that is almost heartbreaking. They see me, I think, as the son they wish they had had. A few months ago, David called me. He told me they were selling their large family home and downsizing. The scandal, he admitted, had taken a toll on their social lives, and they just wanted a fresh start. He asked if I would be interested in buying some of their furniture, as he knew I was still furnishing my new house. I went over to their house the following weekend. It was a sad, hollowed-out place, full of boxes and memories. As David was showing me a beautiful antique desk, Mary came into the room. She told me Jessica was there, in her old bedroom, packing up the last of her childhood things. She asked if I would be willing to just see her. For a moment, I didn't want to, but I saw the pleading in Mary's eyes, and I agreed. I walked up the stairs and knocked on the door of her old room. She opened it. The confident, radiant woman I had almost married was gone. She was thin, pale, and her eyes were empty. "Mark," she whispered. We just stood there for a moment, two strangers who had once promised each other forever. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely audible. "For everything." It was the first time I had ever heard her say those words without a hint of manipulation, without any agenda other than the simple, painful truth. I just nodded. "I know," I said. And that was it. There was no grand confrontation, no final, satisfying speech, just a quiet, sad acknowledgement of the ruins she had made of her own life.